Valuable members of the Imam Hatip High School community, distinguished teachers and dear youngsters, esteemed participants, I'd like to greet you all with the most heartfelt sentiments, love and affection. Peace be upon you. Valuable brothers, I will continue my speech with a selected poem. Greetings to the Imam Hatip students. Greetings to your spirit. Greetings to you, Imam Hatip student. Greeting to your emotions. Greetings to young minds. Greetings to the wonderful voices which are articulated from your mouth. You have established a throne on our hearts. You have conquered the hearts. May it be auspicious. It is inherited to you by Fatih, the conqueror. As my prayers are heard over the sky, greetings to you, Imam Hatip members. Greetings to you, Fatih the conqueror. Greetings to you, Aisha. Greetings to you, Fatima. Greetings to you, my Imam Hatip student. So from this rostrum, I'd like to extend my deepest love, greetings and respect to my brothers and sisters from the Imam Hatip schools and Istanbul, which is inherited to us by Fatih the Conqueror. And from this beautiful city, I'd like to extend my gratitude to all the oppressed ones who are turning their eyes to our country. On the 70th year anniversary of the reopening of the Imam Hatip schools in Turkey and the Religious Education in Turkey International Symposium, on this occasion I am so grateful that I am together with my brothers and sisters who devoted their hearts to religious high schools, the Imam Hatip schools. I would like to thank the Önder, the Medar foundations for leading the organization of this symposium, and I would like to congratulate them. I'd like to thank any institutions, universities and NGOs who supported the organization of this symposium. I hope that this symposium will be proven beneficial and successful. I pray for the success of this symposium and may it be auspicious to our nation, to our people and to all the humanity. That is my prayers. And once again I'd like to say welcome to all professors who came from abroad, and I'd like to extend my deepest appreciation to them for their contributions to our symposium in advance. For the last 70 years, there has been many volunteers of Imam Hatip schools who contributed a lot for increasing the number of Imam Hatip schools. Once again, I'd like to remember with deepest gratification and appreciation the ones who served in this Imam Hatip schools and who served to their students. The times have come, they share their sustenance from their kids with their students. I would like to remember them once again. May God be willing with those servants, and may their eternal place be heaven. Valuable guests and dear brothers and sisters, the Imam Hatip schools are 70-year-old pine tree, and it is at the same time a symbol of a huge fight and struggle which has been fought with great determination. The story of the Imam Hatip schools is also the story of our nation fighting for its independence, for its rights and justice. The Imam Hatip schools are a turning point which shows the level of democracy in our country. As the shadows of the tutelage is eradicated, the shackles which are put to the doors of the Imam Hatip schools were broken. And unfortunately, during the coup attempt at times, the Imam Hatip schools have been put under great pressure as well. The Republican People Party have always put pressure on the Imam Hatip schools. Whenever they have the chance, they use this chance either to close those schools or to seize the rights which are obtained by this Imam Hatip schools. And our nation has embraced these schools as an oasis in a desert, but quite contrarily, the Republican People's Party has seen the Imam Hatip schools as a threat to our nation, and we have seen numberless of such examples. And this is also really important because it is definitely showing the oppression which our nation has to endure with by single party administrations. Hamdullah Supi Tanrı Över, who was a Republican People Party MP as well, has described the vehement situation that Turkey was in. And he says that after a discussion that took place in the National Assembly, I went outside and 6 students were crying out, and they told me that I would like to say that we only have 1 imams in 6 of our provinces, and that people has to wait in queue because the imams are wandering from one city to another. If you don't give us imam and a preacher, unfortunately we have to bury our deads just like a dog corpse. I mean, the villagers were articulating those sentences to Hamdullah Supi Tanrı Över, who was an MP from Republican People Party, by the way. And this is a source of embarrassment and shame. Unfortunately, during its single party time, those were the realities. The base and the fundamental of this civilization has been nourished with Islam, and in order to prevent the heathen's hand touch the bosoms of our homeland, we challenged all of the world. And in order to protect the voice of Afghans, the majority of our soldiers have been martyred. In such kind of a Turkey, unfortunately, when we reached to 1950s, this was the situation. The nation couldn't find imam who will perform the prayers, but we couldn't even find the preachers and the imams who would be able to carry out the burial ceremonies. And the Turkish adherence was another source of upheaval for our nation, which really pushed the tolerance of our nation. And then, as you know, during the 1960s, Menderes has given 2 vows saying that the Imam Hatip schools will be opened again and the adhans will be performed in its original form. And the first action done by Menderes after he came to power was to make sure that the adhans are heard within the original form. And Menderes is still remembered with gratification by our nation thanks to the fact that he reopened the Imam Hatip schools. But the Republican People Party did their best in order to prevent the Imam Hatip schools from being reopened again. Mahmut Celalettin Ökten has had many difficulties which has been articulated in many books. I have taken on the train. I went to Ankara, and the Minister of Education was one of my students, and he didn't forget me. I stayed in an hotel in Ankara, and as the days passed, the orders of Tevfik İleri was not accepted by the DG of Education. I had to stay in Ankara for 1 week. I have to eat bread with tea only, and I couldn't sleep. And then after 1 week, we presented this situation to Mr. Menderes. But unfortunately, thanks to his order, we were able to receive the permission. I was over the clouds, and I was so happy, and I am still surprised how I couldn't lose my mind. I was so happy that day. I was even not so happy when I got married, he said. In 11th of October 1951, the Imam Hatip schools have been reopened in 7 provinces, and that's how the Turkey's year with Imam Hatip has been initiated. The high schools have been opened for the first time in 1954, and then the high Islamic institutes were founded in 1959, and then unfortunately during the 12th of March memorandum, the high schools have been closed down. During the terms of Ferit Belen, a regulation has been published in 1972, and all the programs have been abolished for the Imam Hatip School graduates as of 1972. Thanks to the endeavors of the National Salvation Party, 11 schools have been reopened again in 1974, and Imam Hatip schools was the target of the tutelage supporters in 28th of February, and the secondary schools have been closed down, and the dreams of the Imam Hatip graduates were destroyed due to the coefficient application. Including but not limited to my children, the Imam Hatip school graduates had to delay their dreams of going to universities, or they have to go abroad. In 2017, we abolished the coefficient applications, and 1 year later, by establishing the 4+4+4 system, we have opened the secondary schools of Imam Hatips, and we put an end to this interregnum of Imam Hatip schools.
Bize milletin okullarını tekrar milletle buluşturma imkanı bahşettiği için hamd ediyorum.
I'm so grateful to my God, to my Creator, that He enabled me to meet Imam Hatip schools with our nation. I graduated from Imam Hatip schools. My kids also graduated from Imam Hatip schools. But I don't discriminate between Imam Hatip schools or other schools, because at the end of the day, each one of our schools are our masters, and we will serve to them, and we will mobilize and provide any sort of support that we can. We have listened to our professor Hayrettin. During my first year in Imam Hatip High School, he was my Arabic teacher for half term, and Bekir Topaloğlu by the way. He was my teacher as well during my first year. Well, thanks to God, I had the chance to learn from them. But as you know, Professor Bekir has passed away. Professor Hayrettin is alive. May God give him many more years to live. At the end of the day, what I would like to say is that they have put a lot of efforts to our youngsters. And our youngsters always created this distinction, and thanks to their efforts, we came to this point. If there is this concern of raising religious youngsters, it is thanks to their efforts. Of course, there are the ones who are really concerned about those developments. There are the ones who are supporting quite the contrary. Let them be. We will do our best to accomplish our targets. Aren't there the ones who would like to raise a non-religious generation? Yes, there are. They will do what they can do, and we will do what we can do, and this will be our distinction from them. Dear brothers and sisters, this story is not the story of the Imam Hatip schools only, it is our story. This story is the story of the oppressed, the marginalized, who has been treated as a pariah. It is the story of our great and august nation. This story is the story of our girls who shed their tears due to their clothes. This story is the story of our youngsters who had to delay their university dreams. This story is the story of our people who has been despised, being stated that they are wearing the galoshes. And this story is the story of the people who has been despised due to the fact that they are selling pasta. Or this story is the story of our citizens whose beloved ones have been kept inside of the morgues due to the fact that they couldn't pay the debt. This story is the story of the mothers who were not accepted to the swearing-in ceremony of their sons in the army because of their headscarves. This story is the story of the mothers whose son has been kidnapped by the terrorist organizations. You know, we have those mothers and fathers in Diyarbakir in one. This story is the story of those people. This story is the story of the people who never gave up from democracy, from legitimacy, despite all the provocations. For the last 40 years, we did our best to rewrite the story, and in order to change the unfortunate chance of our nation, we are struggling together with our Kurdish people and Turkish people, with our Alawites and Sunnis, and we are struggling in order to increase the welfare of our nation. As we set foot to this journey, we were ready to die, and of course we have come along with many difficulties and obstacles, and we were subject to political violence and oppression. There were the ones who tried to close the political party in power with ungrounded allegations, and they try to prevent us from selecting the president due to the 367 quota, and they provoked our people in the Republican meetings so that they can prepare the necessary ground for the tutelage supporters. They have used their proxies in order to attack us so that the Turkey will be dragged down to instability. Under the disguise of tree and environmentalism, they initiated the Occupy Gezi event and they tried to shed blood in our streets. And inside of Bezmi Alem Mosque, the drunk people went inside and the beers have been poured down onto the carpets of our mosques, and they opened this underground channel until to our office in Dolmabahce Palace, and they went in hand with the Gezi protesters. So on 17th of December, due to their militias, they tried to overthrow the legitimate government. On 15th of July, they mobilized the traitors, the Fethullah terrorist organization traitors, in order to shed blood in our country. They made use of their economic hitmen and attempted on preventing the economic glory of Turkey. Thanks to the will and determination of our nation and the help of our God, we have thwarted all those attacks. So we didn't leave our country to the tutelage supporters or economic hitmen, and we never left our countries to the greedy, ambitious bloodmongers. We paid price in order to protect the national will, but we never kneeled down in the face of the oppressors. We never allowed the political elite who are self-evident to dominate our nation. Dear brothers and sisters, the God gives us the good news that beyond every difficulty there will be a solution. And Hazreti Mevlana also clearly states that beyond every despair there are many hopes, and beyond darkness there are many suns, he says. So although we are facing with difficulties, we have also observed how our journey has been eased as well. When the tutelage supporters created this nightmare, we have seen the light at the end of the tunnel and at the end of the night, and we received the good news of our God, just like the Imam Hatip students. The Imam Hatip schools who tried to be closed down during 28th of February, thanks to God, they became one of the first schools which has been selected the most. Do you know how many students there was when we came to power for the first time? The number of the students back then decreased from 600,000 to 64,000, but right now their numbers reach to 1.4 million already. The number of the secondary and high school students in total number of students reached to 14%. These numbers itself shows the favor and the courtesy of our nation towards the Imam Hatip schools. Although there are the ones who try to defame those schools, the interest of our nation still persists towards the Imam Hatip schools. After the coefficient application has been lifted, the success story of the Imam Hatip schools increase as well. So, in the last university exam, 387 Imam Hatip graduates made to first 1,000. And we also have seen that more than 30,000 Imam Hatip graduates were ranked in the first 100,000 university exam takers. And with comparison to the previous years, there is an increase by 63% among the top 100 students. In addition to their success stories in the university exams, the Imam Hatip schools made many success in many competitions, including but not limited to Turkish Scientific Institute and Teknofest. The fame of the Imam Hatip schools even went beyond Turkey, because there are people who come to Turkey and ask us questions about those schools. And we have those visitors from Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Malaysia. So those countries are asking for the curriculum and information about those schools. Not only the religious classes are being given in those schools, but the science classes are being given in those schools as well. And this is a very unique educational model. This fascist Republican People Party mentality has no idea which lessons are taught inside of this Imam Hatip schools. So they don't know that chemistry, literature, or physics are being taught in the Imam Hatip schools. Maybe they know, or they pretend that they have no idea. I mean, we are surprised with their ignorance. 1,200 international students from 80,000 universities receive their education in our Imam Hatip schools. So as we fight against Boko Haram, Daesh, and Al-Shabaab with our Imam Hatip schools, the number of the Imam Hatip schools will definitely increase. The Imam Hatip schools will not only be instrumental for our fight against the terrorist organizations, but the Imam Hatip schools are positively contributing to the higher education level of our girls. At the onset of the foundation of the Imam Hatip schools, the percentage of the girls going to the universities were 23.5%, which increased to the level of 40%. With the formal education, we have initiated the Hafiz the Preachers project, which is actually serving to the need of our nation. Thanks to this project, in which 1,568 students participated, our students, without missing their classes, had the chance to work as preachers. Within the scope of the project, my grandson is also participating, and approximately 300,000 of our grandsons and granddaughters have already graduated from this program. The Imam Hatip schools are not the vocational schools which are educating the preachers and the ministers of our religion. It will not reflect the whole picture. The reason why those schools have been embraced by our nation is due to the fact that we are raising hardworking, idealist, religious, and self-confident generations. For the last 70 years, the Imam Hatip school graduates have always devoted themselves to their nations and to their country. Mehmet Selim Kiraz was one of the heroes who sacrificed his life for the establishment of justice graduated from Imam Hatip schools. The doctors, the lawyers, the bureaucrats, the businessmen, the politicians, ministers, prime ministers, and the presidents have graduated from the Imam Hatip schools. But thanks be upon the God, we didn't have any graduates who should own his own nation.
Aklını ve iradesini Pensilvanya'daki şarlatana kiraya verenlerin
And
28 Şubat döneminde darbecilerle
they were the ones who put their brains to the service of the charlatan in Pennsylvania, and they are cooperating with the 15th of July coup attempt, and the reason behind all of those is exactly this. Valuable brothers and sisters, comprehending this unique educational model and re-updating it is really important. These Imam Hatip schools, which are the products of tens of decades of struggle, we should really empower them even further and strengthen them even further by closing the gaps and deficits. For the upcoming 3 days, I am certain that the presentations of our intellectuals will enable us to get one step closer to our dreams and targets. As an Imam Hatip school graduate and as the grandfather and father of Imam Hatip students, I would like to really put all your efforts for the strengthening of the Imam Hatip high schools. May God help us all. As I conclude my remarks, I hope that the International Symposium on the Turkish Religious Education on the 70th anniversary of the reopening of the Imam Hatip schools, I wish health to Professor Hayrettin Karaman, and once again I would like to remember and may God's mercy be upon our professors who contributed a lot to us, but unfortunately who has passed away. I would like to congratulate all the contributors of our symposium. I'd like to greet you all with love and respect. Stay healthy and safe.
Tayyip Erdoğan'a konuşmaları için çok teşekkür ediyor ve zat devletlerini bir müddet daha sahnede misafir ediyoruz. Günün anısına hediye takdimi olacaktır. Hediyelerini takdim etmek üzere Milli Eğitim Bakanımız Sayın Mahmut Özer ve Doktor Sayın Mustafa Öcal'ı sahneye davet ediyoruz. Buyurunuz lütfen.